In every market cycle, there's a moment not of chaos, but of calibration, a time when the whole rhythm of things just shifts, the pace steadies, and the market finds its way back to equilibrium. We are in that moment right now. This is the story of the great rebalancing. After that incredible, almost frantic pace we've all gotten used to, a season of patience has settled over the market. That feeling of urgency, the one that defined almost every transaction, has given way to a much more deliberate, more considered approach. This isn't a downturn, it's a normalization. It's a return to a market where good decisions are guided by diligence, not by desperation. So, to really understand this new environment, we have to look beyond the day-to-day headlines about sales and prices. We need to ask a more fundamental question. What's the underlying force that's driving this profound shift? And the answer isn't just about sentiment. It's about a single, powerful economic lever. And here it is. This is the anchor of our new market reality. You see, higher borrowing costs were introduced to the system on purpose to moderate demand and cool down an economy that was running incredibly hot. The effect this had on the housing market wasn't some accident. It was the primary objective. And this one lever has fundamentally recalibrated the financial landscape for every single household. As a result, it feels like the entire market has just taken a deep breath. And it's a necessary pause, really. It's allowing all that intense pressure that had built up over the last few years to gently release. It's a period of adjustment where the fundamentals, things like value and affordability, are starting to matter again. So, as you'd expect, this new dynamic has exerted a kind of gravitational pull on prices. What we're witnessing now is a return to equilibrium, where values are settling into a much more sustainable and balanced range. And you can really see this realignment clearly in the numbers. The average price has moderated, dipping from over $1 million to just under. This reflects the new, more disciplined spending environment that higher rates have created. It's a direct logical consequence of demand cooling off just as the supply of homes has started to balance out. But, this rebalancing isn't happening the same way across the board. The biggest adjustments have been in ground-oriented housing, detached and semi-detached homes. That's the very same sector that saw the most dramatic price gains during the market's peak. Condominiums, on the other hand, have shown some real resilience, with only a very modest recalibration in their value. And when you look at the map, the story gets even more interesting. While detached home prices have adjusted pretty similarly across the whole region, we're seeing a real split in the condo sector. The urban core has stayed remarkably stable. Meanwhile, the surrounding suburbs have seen a much more noticeable price adjustment. This might be a subtle clue that demand is quietly shifting back to the city center, maybe driven by the return to the office and a renewed appreciation for that urban lifestyle. So, for anyone who's been looking to get into the market, this whole shift has created a new landscape of opportunity. The power dynamic has tilted, giving thoughtful, prepared buyers a kind of leverage they haven't had in years. The entire experience for a buyer has been transformed. With inventory up over 8% from last year, there's just more to see. And with properties now staying on the market for about 45 days, up from 37, you actually have time to do your homework. That intense pressure from bidding wars has faded, and negotiation is back on the table as a normal part of the process. This is a massive psychological change. That fear of missing out that drove so much of the market's frenzy has been replaced by a quiet confidence, the confidence to wait for the right home at the right price. Buyers aren't just reacting anymore, they're acting with purpose and strategy. Of course, for sellers, this new era calls for a similar recalibration. The old playbook, the one that worked in that frenetic seller's market, just isn't effective anymore. Success now really hinges on a disciplined and realistic approach to the market. In this environment, pricing is everything. With the average sale now happening at 97% of the list price, setting an overly ambitious price is just going to be met with silence. Patience has also become a necessity. A successful sale is now measured in weeks, not days. And since buyers can afford to be more selective, the quality of a property's presentation can be the one thing that makes it stand out from the competition. This all leads to a really crucial question, one that thousands of families are asking themselves. If you're both buying and selling in the same market, where exactly does this new reality leave you? The answer really lies in the symmetry of a balanced market. For anyone looking to move up, the landscape is often much better than it might seem on the surface. Because for so many, what they might be leaving on the table on their sale, they more than gain back on the price of their purchase. The rebalancing works on both sides of the ledger. So as we navigate our way through this period of transition, it's really important to know which signals will tell us where the market is headed next. There are a few key indicators that will give us clarity on the direction and the pace of change in the months ahead.
First, keep a close eye on inventory levels. If we see a consistent drop in the number of homes for sale, that's a sign that demand is starting to absorb the supply. Second, monitor the days on market. A steady decrease there would tell us that the pace of sales is picking up. And finally, watch the sales volumes themselves. A sustained upward trend would be the clearest sign that buyer sentiment has truly shifted and the market is moving into its next phase.
It's so important to remember that this great rebalancing isn't a single event that happens overnight. It's a process. It's a journey toward a more stable, a more sustainable, and frankly, a healthier housing market for all of us. And it's a transition that requires both patience and perspective. The market will always continue to evolve, but in this new, more balanced environment, one truth really holds steady. Clarity becomes the most valuable asset you can have. Understanding the dynamics that are happening beneath the surface, beyond all the noise, that's what empowers a truly sound decision.